Walk with me. So we're taught from a really young age the importance of confidence. We've all heard it a bunch of different ways, right? Confidence is key. Confidence is everything. We're taught that value really young. We got to build strong self-confidence. I mean, shoot, it's a value I'm working on instilling into my kids right now. Grayson, 6 years old, Sadie, 3. Sure, I want them to have a strong, healthy self-confidence. But in my experience, there is a fine line, a difference between confidence and what I'll call too much bravado. And one of them will always lead to a rise, an ascent, progress, growth. And one of them will always, in the end, lead to a fall. And yet we often confuse the two, confidence and bravado. They often look the same, and sometimes even within our own self-reflection, our own self-awareness, we might have a blurred line on what side we're currently on. So I want to talk about that line. I want to talk about that shift with all of you today, because I think it's so important right now with so much opportunity in the world, so much ability to make big moves, to create some big changes, some big shifts. So much we can do as creators, as entrepreneurs, to help and make an impact. And inevitably, where there's a big need, a big demand, there's going to be a big rise, a big ascent. And I want, sincerely, that to be for every one of you this year. But I want to give a level of awareness, a cautionary conversation as we all move in a positive direction of that fine line to be aware of in ourselves and others. But before we get to the conversation at hand, I'm going to ask, hey, who's by my side today? Beautiful day. I was just talking to some of my business partners. They're like, it's a snow day today. Kids are home, ice on the ground, snow is falling. I'm like, sent them a photo of that. I'm like, same here in Southern California. I know, half you hate me. Snow days are fun though. Hope you're all safe and warm in the parts of the world that are getting it. But regardless of where you are and what the weather is, we are together right now, and I want to know who's by my side. Don't be shy, say hello below. Who is catching this live? Who is watching the replay? Comment below where you're from. Tell me something good happening in your life right now. I genuinely want to know. If you're new to the crew, welcome. We walk together live, usually same time, same day, same week. Walk with me Wednesday if you want to put it in the calendar. And in case you miss it, past conversations, the good ones, the best ones, you can find on the podcast, Alive by Design, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, all the podcast places. Who's subscribed? If you haven't, make your way over there, leave some reviews. And the only thing I ask if you are new is that, hey, don't be shy, participate, collaborate, as if we are walking together side by side, a global community coming together for some inspired conversation, some positive energy. Give me your thoughts below. Your perspective matters. It adds value to me and others. So, topic today on my mind, that line. So when we talk about confidence and bravado, what comes to your mind? You see, I think the core is bravado has to do with what we want others to think about us. But confidence has to do with what we think about ourselves. You see, bravado is playing the outside game. Confidence is the inside game. And yes, not to jump to a big lesson, but as with many of our talks come to land on a similar thing, is if you're ever living your life changing your actions based on the expectation or perception of others, or even more so your thoughts or opinion on what that might even be, because we never really know. It never ends up well for us or others. But the more we work on that inside game, being true to ourselves, not only the better results we get in life, but the better we feel about those results. And this is a big one, because it is a decision all of you probably have faced, maybe are facing, or you for sure will face. So it's a lesson we got to bring top of mind. Bravado. So bravado, caring about what impression you may leave on others, what message you may send to others, what may be going through the minds of others, and constantly changing your actions, your words, to try to influence those perceptions is a bravado. And a type of bravado comes, in my experience, generally from two places. And I've lived it. I've been there. I've been a part of entire cultures that ended up mixing the line between confidence and bravado and going down a slippery slope and feeling and seeing, living the impact of it. So trust me when I say I speak from experience on this topic. So when I say bravado comes from two places, the first is it comes alongside a feeling of success. And we've all been there. We've all had successes at points in our life and various things, and we'll all have more. You will, I promise. And alongside success comes mask this trap of bravado. Because a lot of times when success starts to come, it says, well, success has 100 fathers. Meaning that in order to create something great, it's very rarely, if ever, done by a single individual. It always takes a collaboration, a teamwork, right? A coming together of different temperaments, talents, convictions to create something great. But when it comes to success, it's so easy to sell ourselves that we did it, that it was a I game. And that's why we say success has 100 fathers or 1,000 fathers, because any success story, you're going to have tons of people saying it was them that created it, that instigated it. You know, with success, you start to create a momentum. It's true. When you start getting in a rhythm, when things start to work, when energy starts to flow, it starts to create just an energy. I'm not going to get into the secret conversation or attraction conversation or manifestation conversation, a frequency conversation. There's so many conversations that all talk about essentially the same thing, which is this energy that gets created. I'll call it a momentum. Check out the view from the top. Woo! Clear day! I'm gonna sit on my rock. It's our rock, guys. It's our rock at the top. And here's the thing about momentum is momentum creates more momentum. Momentum makes you better than you are. Momentum starts to do a lot of the work. When momentum's created, it carries a lot of the weight. And it's easy to mistake that you, that I, that we are the ones that are creating everything. When you get into that state, so much of it is the momentum itself carrying the work. I'll use an analogy of a tailwind. If you're a pilot taking off from one place to another, point A to point B, and all of a sudden you land at point B an hour earlier than you ever expected or intended, and you ask, well, how'd you get there? It's because you had a tailwind. I had that happen on my flight 2 weeks ago. I landed, earlier into Los Angeles, almost 45 minutes earlier, because we had crazy tailwinds coming in. And a tailwind means the wind is blowing at a large velocity in the direction you're flying, right? From the tail blowing to the front, meaning it's literally pushing the plane faster than it would go on its own. Now, it would be interesting if a pilot got off the plane and said, oh yeah, that was all me. You like that piloting? You like that flying? Oh yeah, you like the way I was holding that steering wheel, slamming that throttle, right? Playing with those dials? You know I have no idea how to fly a plane, but you guys get the gist. Imagine a pilot getting off, feeling good, a little swagger, a little confidence, telling stories to his kids that night of how he landed an hour earlier because of his skill. That'd be pretty silly. Because anybody honest with even a little bit of knowledge would say, no, it was the tailwind. But guys, success does the same thing. Momentum does the same thing. You end up going further faster than you would on your own. And if you're not careful and honest with yourself, you start to claim it as if it was your skill, your brilliance, right? Your genius, your tenacity, when it was just a tailwind of the collective energy created by everybody rowing the same direction. That's why we say momentum covers a lot of mud, right? Because when you're in a momentum, you're so focused forward that sometimes you don't see or feel or experience the mud that's being created underneath. So all of these are different ways to say that ultimately with success comes this opportunity of a bravado trap, of starting to think you better than you really are. You're above, right, other individuals. And that bravado, if not checked, if not hit with a level of honesty or transparency, humility, to use the word, can create an energy and approach that just isn't true, that is totally fake. You got to be careful not to buy your own story, not to buy into your own press. Matter of fact, the higher you climb, the more conscious you have to be, the more humble you have to become. Now, the other side I've seen when it comes to bravado may not be just the level of success, but sometimes bravado is just the over response to an inner insecurity. Have you ever met somebody that deep down you just knew there was an insecurity there, maybe a past trauma, an upbringing? There was a chip on the shoulder, something they had to prove for someone to some reason, usually in the past, totally disconnected or irrelevant to the project at hand. But there's an overcorrection, an overreaction of a bravado to try to mask or hide what they know deep down inside. Sometimes the people that have the biggest bravado at the end of the day are actually the most insecure. You guys, here's the thing about a bravado, right? A bravado means that you're not being truthful with yourself. A bravado means that you are saying things and doing things that are not in alignment with the reality of what's really happening or who you really are. And that can create a delusion. That can create a blind spot. That can allow you to not see things that are there, or to see things, right, more than they can be. And that can be dangerous in terms of decisions that are made, direction that you're going. There's another side of it that I have to point out. And what happens when you have a bravado is you also hit other people's triggers. So let's be honest, guys. Not everybody in the world is into mindfulness, is into self-growth, right? Personal development. Not everybody is working on themselves. Like you guys, right, listening to this right now, like us as a group, a lot of people aren't. And let's be real, there's a lot of people in the world who have an easy trigger of jealousy, an easy trigger of envy, right? There's a critic around every corner. It's always so easy to find somebody that's quick to cast a stone. And here's what I found in my experience, and this is sad, and I hate that I have to say this, but it is true in the reality that we live, that people love to knock people off a mountaintop. Especially in Western civilization, American culture. We don't like the guy on top. We don't like the man on top. We don't like the person on top. When I say we, the collective, I don't mean you literally, but there is a huge, huge percentage of the population that the higher someone climbs, the bigger a target they have on their back, the bigger they want to lock someone down, because it hits other people's triggers and insecurity and envy and jealousy. And they don't want somebody on top of a place when they're down at the bottom. And isn't it our culture these days, sad to say, to the higher someone climbs, the more they have people trying to knock them down. And if you carry a bravado, you put a bigger target on your back. The higher you climb, the more resistance you're going to find from other individuals because of their own triggers and their own insecurities. And it's sad to say, but that's the truth. What does being a celebrity mean today other than a target? What does being a icon mean today other than a target? I mean, just go flip through the news, go scroll through the troll chatter on social media. You can't go out and excel anywhere today without someone trying to hack you down, trying to make a name for themselves by being a critic. It's sad. People come from a place of jealousy, envy, and scarcity instead of a place of abundance. We're so quick to knock down instead of lift up. We're so quick to try to poke a hole instead of draw inspiration. We're so quick. And again, I know that's probably not a lot of the audience listening to this, but we all know people that fall into that demographic. So my point about bravado and why this is something to be so sensitive about is it's a danger. It's a risk. A bravado, whether it comes from buying into your own story too much, believing that it wasn't the tailwind, but your own genius. Bravado as an overreaction of insecurity. And regardless of which one it is, being the person at the top of the mountain, knowing there's a bunch of people trying to knock you down. Bravado is dangerous today. And the more bravado you have, the harder you're going to fall at some point. I've never met somebody that has an over bravado that gets to the top and stays there for a long period of time without getting knocked down in some way for the reasons we're talking about. So you might say, well, Blake, what's the difference? Well, what do you do, right? Well, that's the shift. The shift between bravado and confidence is a shift we got to understand, a shift we got to make. A shift from doing and acting and saying based on what we want others to perceive to a true confidence is not about the outside, it's about the inside. So what's confidence other than a truth to ourselves? Confidence is a knowing who we are, a knowing what we stand for, and a believing in our own opinions and decisions. Isn't that a confidence? Right? You think about someone that has a true self-confidence, they know who they are. They know what they stand for and what they don't. And they believe in their decisions because the decisions they make and the opinions they make are coming from a right intention. They're not filtered or adjusted based on the broken lens of other people. It's not a reflection of a broken mirror. It is a true opinion with the right intention. That's a confidence. And that's the difference. And don't get me wrong, a confidence doesn't mean that you're always right. Nobody's always right. There's always mistakes. You can have a confidence doing and saying things based on an authenticity, based on a value system, based on a real belief. It doesn't mean you're always going to be right, but the spirit, the energy behind it is one based on a true intention. And here's the interesting thing about a confidence, is a true confidence is actually more open to the other opinion, right? More open to the perspective of others, more open to critique and feedback. You see, a bravado or an insecurity sometimes puts a wall up and refuses to hear what other people have to say because they take it as an attack. But a true confidence welcomes feedback and collaboration. A true confidence believes a conflict is more about a collaboration to be better. A true confidence is not going to hit an insecurity trigger. So a true confidence actually is more open to adjustment and adaptation. That's why a true confidence will always go further faster. Isn't that interesting? You guys, a confidence comes across as an assertiveness. A confidence comes across as, yes, a belief and an opinion and a passion, but also an openness and a willingness to hear and adjust. You guys, people appreciate and feel a confidence much more than a bravado. And it's an irony that a true confidence actually has a balance of a more humility than sometimes the mask we like to put on or portray of someone that is so confident. You guys, the higher you climb, the more humble you have to be. The faster you go, the more humble you have to be. The more successful you are, the more humble you have to be. We call it the success gap. The bigger the gap there is between where you're at and where you're going to where the rest of the world are, the more conscious you have to be to close that gap. And one way you close that gap is to keep bravado out of your game. But don't sacrifice the confidence. The confidence is key. And guys, the irony, whether it's bravado or whether it's confidence, the other side of that coin is insecurity in both fronts. So don't get me wrong. We all got to work to overcome our own insecurities. We all have those, and a confidence is the solution and the way to do that. But again, mind the difference between the two, because a bravado, no matter how high you climb or how far you go, you're always going to end up starting back at the bottom. A confidence, however, is going to allow you to consistently ascend and do it in a way that's welcomed by others and applauded by others. So that's what I mean by the shift between a bravado and a confidence. I'm going to go ahead and stand up here. One more view from the top. You guys tell me your thoughts here below. Have you ever been to a place where the bravado got the best of you? Or maybe you're in a place where you need more confidence right now and you got to work on moving in that genuine direction. Hey, if there's someone that came to your mind or your heart that maybe has fought with either of these, right, tag them in the comments below. Feel free to share. You can obviously hit the podcast if you're listening to this on a Live by Design. Anytime you get a message that resonates with you, hey, take a minute and leave a review. You got to go to a Live by Design on Apple Podcasts, scroll way to the bottom, go ahead and hit the 5 stars and leave a review. That means a lot to me and allows us to get this message in front of even more listeners on the podcast platform. So I appreciate all of those. And my hope for all of you this week is you get the lesson, you push the bravado out, or you keep it and put it away for a time that it's going to knock on your door, because it will. And we all pursue a true inner confidence with the right intention as we work to go out there and seize the opportunity of today and make the impact that you can make today. In the meantime, hope you all stay safe, stay healthy. Until the next time we walk together, look forward to reading your comments below.